Here we have a clavicle, which is also known as a collarbone, and it spans the difference between the acromion of the scapula and the manubrium and the sternum. So the sternal end, which is this part, the sternal end articulates with the manubrium, and the acromial end articulates with the scapula. So this articulates with the scapula, and this articulates with the sternum. So here we have a right scapula, and the reason you know it's right is because the glenoid fossa is always on the lateral side. Here we have the spine of the scapula, which separates the supraspinous fossa, which is up here, from the infraspinous fossa, which is right under here. The acromion is at the end of the spine of the scapula, which is at the end of the spine, and it's the point of articulation where the clavicle comes in. The coracoid process is the superior attachment, which is up here. And this is the attachment of the coracobrachialis muscle of the upper arm and the pectoralis minor muscle of the rib cage. This shallowly concave this is the coracoid process, and this shallowly concave glenoid fossa is where the point of articulation with the humerus. So here we have a right humerus, and the reason you know that it is right is because this is the medial epicondyle, and the medial epicondyle, as said, is always medial. So the humerus is the longest bone of the pectoral limb, and it is the heaviest. The proximal articular head is up here, which this is where it articulates with the glenoid cavity of the scapula. The greater tubercle is right up here. This is the greater tubercle, and the lesser tubercle is right here. Greater tubercle, lesser tubercle. So the greater tubercle, the lesser tubercle. So approximately 1/3 to 1/2 way down the lateral side, lateral is the outside of the humerus, is a roughened surface, which is right here, and this is the deltoid tuberosity. This is the deltoid tuberosity. At the distal end, there are also structures associated with the articulation, and that is the lateral. Here is the. This is now the posterior view. Here we have an ulna. This is a right ulna, and the ulna is the larger of the two bones of the forearm. So the parts of the ulna are the olecranon process, which is what it's usually distinguished by, is up here. The trochlear notch is right here, which is where the trochlea of the humerus fits in. The next thing is the radial notch, which is right over here. And the next thing is the ulnar notch of the radius is down here. Down here we also have the styloid process. And we also need to talk about the interosseous membrane, which is right here, and this is the interosseous membrane of the ulna. Here we have a radius. This is a right radius. This is the other bone of the forearm. It is readily distinguished by the cup-shaped articulation for the capitulum of the humerus in its proximal end. This is also called the head of the radius, which is this part up here. It also has a sharp edge, and this time it's on the medial side. So this is going to be called the ulnar notch. And the ulnar notch is for the ulnar articulation, and the radius also carries a styloid process, which is down here. This here is the styloid process. It is, whereas the ulna is more massive than the radius near the elbow joint, the radius is the more massive element in the wrist joint, which is here. Here we have a hand, and these are the bones of the hands. We have 8 carpal bones down here. 8 carpal bones. And we have 5 metacarpals from the skeleton of the palm of the hand, and most distally the 4 fingers have 3 phalanges. So we have these are the metacarpals, and here are the phalanges. So the phalanges, the reason there's 3 is there's a section that goes 1, 2, and 3. And all of them have 3 bones except for the thumb, and the thumb only has the 2. So here we have a hand, and we're going to do the carpal bones of the hand. So this is a left hand, and we're going to start with the, this is the hamate right here, and then we have the pisiform, which is right here. And we have the triquetral, which is the next bone here, and the lunate, which is this bone here. We have the capitate, which is the bone in here, the scaphoid, which is the next bone here, the trapezoid, which is up here, the trapezium, which is this one. So those were the 8 carpal bones of the hand. Here again we have a left hand, and the metacarpals and the phalanges of the hand, each digit includes a metacarpal. So the first to the third metacarpals of the thumb to the middle finger, each articulate with an individual carpal. The 4th and 5th both articulate with the hamate, except for the thumb. All of the fingers include a phalanx, which is a singular phalange. So the proximal, middle, and distal phalanx. So here we go with this is the proximal, the middle, and the distal. So the thumb doesn't happen because the thumb only has proximal and distal.